So my name is Heather Novak, and you are tuning into Modern Moms online or in reality, as the rest of you guys are. I'm here to talk about my trip to Sierra Leone, Africa, as a reluctant missionary, and I'm really glad that you guys are all here to hear about this. It is true, you guys don't know this because you didn't show up, but I was earlier wearing a dragon costume, and I bought it at Target for $30, and I just think, I could skip this part, but the reality is the fact that I had that on and knew enough to change out of it before talking about Africa. I want you all to be with me in that in-between, in being an American woman with a little bit of extra money to buy something ridiculous that I don't need, and yet be humble enough to remember my place in the world, to take it off before I talk about some of the things I'm going to talk about. That it's okay to be in that uncomfortable in-between of wanting things and having them, and also knowing that a lot of people don't have even the basics that they need. And it's an uncomfortable place as people of privilege to be, and I think it's okay to call it that and to be aware of it and to take whatever step we can to move out of that area every chance we get. And so for me, it's taking the costume off, but still admitting I had it on and letting you be aware that that was happening. So the title of this is Reluctant Missionary, Everyday Mama Shoved by God Towards the Sierra Leone Adventure. So as a Christian, right, there's a lot of missionaries. And then as a non-Christian, there's Peace Corps, right, or other things like that, Doctors Without Borders. There's all kinds of lovely people that see deep need of the world, and they go out and they meet it, and they do it selflessly, easy for you to say, and they do it, you know, with their own money and their own time and their resources, and they're full of grace and they're amazing, strong human beings. That is not what I am. I am not a gracious, kind, generous missionary. I'm a reluctant missionary. I'm not interested in Africa or other countries or other need outside of my own community or connections. I know there's food pantries here that we serve, and we have homeless men's shelter, and I have little kids that don't get the love that they should get in my neighborhood even. And so, like, there's enough need here, and so I've never been very interested in going international with my presence, my body, my money, and my service. We do have a Compassion International and a World Vision child that we sponsor, but I just didn't care that much, and I didn't usually say that out loud. But like telling you I was wearing a dragon suit earlier, I'm telling you I didn't care that much. And so here in this church, in First Day Methodist Church, we care very much about international missions in addition to local mission. And so we have a strong team of people that are connected in all sorts of ways all over the world, in particularly Sierra Leone and Liberia through Operation Classroom. Yawn. I'm just trying to keep my own kids alive, right? I don't care so much. And so when they would come to me, because I work here and I'm supposed to care, and they would say, how do we make people care about this? How do we explain this? How do we connect these two worlds? You know, our comfortable Valkyries of privilege at any level, even if we're in poverty, we're privileged above most of the world, and this other international world of people who are in need. And I said, well, if you can make me care about it, you can probably get other people to care about it. Like, I'm kind of a typical mom. I'm maybe a little more selfish. We make good money, so I'm kind of maybe, I don't know. But if you can get me to care, then that's how you do it. So you guys that know God, know that God's, yeah, you're laughing. God's funny. So I said that. I said, if you can make me care, I can help you make other people care. So we have this thing called the T at Teama, Sierra Leone. Like, Sierra Leone's like dangerous and scary. I'm like, you don't go there on vacation. And like Teama, I couldn't even say it. I'm like, well, first of all, you have to tell people how to say it. So they had this whole campaign last year from International Missions to raise money for this Teama place. And they had to explain it's Teama Enterprise Academy, that in the African culture, entrepreneurship isn't usually a common thing, and that they're trying to create a school to do that. Okay, so I learned how to say Teama. I did the announcements from the pulpit like I was supposed to. I even wore like one of those crazy African shirts, like...
Excuse me?
Crazy African shirts, Bonnie, crazy.
No, it's beautiful.
So I did all these things, right? And then we'd go into staff meetings, which I won't talk about because we don't talk about staff meetings. But I said, you know, I want to figure out how to connect people to the world in a way that matters to them that they can be of use, and I don't know how to do that. I want like an immersion experience for them. I want a pen pal set up. I want something. So I left a meeting in which we talked about pen pals, and I came back to my desk, and this was, I guess, 4 or 5 months into my Bell's palsy situation, and this guy named Mike Strayer comes up, and he goes, hey, you're a good person to talk to about this. We're interested in sending someone on this mission trip, and International Missions will pay for it. Do you know anybody who might be interested? Would you maybe be interested? No? There's a spoiler here you guys already have, right? Like I went? No, not interested. I said, he goes, well, we want to set up a pen pal like between our youth and their school. No! Right? When God just goes, here's my phone. No, I'm not interested. I got Bell's palsy. I'm not even working my regular schedule. You should talk to the youth guy. So we go across the hall to the youth guy. The youth guy's not sure about it. He said he'll pray. I said I'd consider it if he doesn't go, but he really is the youth guy. He's the one that should go. Long story short, I get in the car with my husband and I go, guess what? They asked me if I wanted to go to Africa on a mission trip. I said I would consider it if so-and-so didn't want to go. And my husband, who's a really reasonable, careful, thoughtful person, goes, well, you'd need a passport. I'm going to leave you widowed with 2 children because I'm going to Sierra Leone and you say I need a passport. And then I leave the car from that conversation. I go into the Y to give them money for my kids' summer camp. And on their chalkboard as I'm standing there, it says pen pals. And I'm like, dude! So I may be cussy. I may be selfish. I may be vain. Should I keep going? But I don't mess with God. I am stupid only to a point, and then I know. And so I agreed to go to Sierra Leone. So this is me beforehand with my 2 daughters. And because I'm a jerk, and because I'm a reluctant missionary, we got a mani-pedi before I left. Because that's what you do when you go to a third world country, right? Just so we were clear how awful I am. And then I was so stressed, I wasn't sleeping, I was so anxious about this trip. Like I've never been anywhere, I don't know what I'm walking into. I've literally bought everything I could buy for international travel on Amazon. It's in a suitcase. But I got calm at one point when I gave my dear friend Lucas Ecklin-Baker and my dear friend Casey Fickett, as you can see, color-coordinated, highlighted schedules of when they were helping me and my husband with my children. Right? Is anyone here surprised?
It was very helpful.
It was very helpful, right? So as soon as that had been handed off, I felt great, you guys. I was like, I could die a happy woman. The next 2 weeks are taken care of. So that was really important. And I know a lot of people have said, oh my gosh, I can't believe you left the country with 2 small children. Have you met my children? They're 8 and 10. Of course I left my... Anyway. So this is the send-off in the parking lot. And I was really grateful that so many of you guys came. Like staff came and some ministry people came. And those of us who were leaving were there, of course. And then you guys showed up. And I have my littlest fan, Miss Maggie. And I was so tickled that you guys came to send us off. You didn't think you were going to see me again, did you? So one of the things going into this is I write, I blog, I speak. I knew that I probably would have to tell this story at some point. And so I had like 3 journals, like no joke, 3 journals. I couldn't write anything. I couldn't write. I had no voice. They prepared us intellectually for this trip. They did not prepare me emotionally. And so I was not able to write, and so I started with haikus. My dad does haiku. It's a little Japanese form poem. It's 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables, 3 lines, that's it. And you have to fit like the nuance in there. And so I had this beautiful little journal from you, Amy, the little leather-bound journal, and it has 50 haiku that I wrote as I processed what I was experiencing. And for those of you that follow me on Facebook, I used that outlet. Whenever we had electricity and Wi-Fi, I had posts that popped up with pictures, because if I couldn't have shared what I was seeing and what I was learning and what I was experiencing, I would have exploded. And so I'm so grateful for the comments and the reading and the fact that I had that venue. But this was one of the first haiku. Musk, Sierra Leone has a fragrance of its own, rich with unwashed life. And this woman that I went with who had gone before said it has a smell, and when we got off the plane, it had a smell. And I don't know exactly what it was, but I think it has a lot to do with just different cultural experience of their daily life. So then we were driving through Freetown. These two pictures are Freetown. And then this woman, this was at a gas station. She's got a goat on a motorcycle.
I was like, what is that, a dog?
It's a goat. It's a goat.
Let's be fair, that's not a motorcycle.
Dirt
Is it?
bike. Dirt bike. So you can see in her face what she thinks of the crazy puma that is wanting a picture of her with her goat. But I just thought it was so beautiful and so interesting. It was one of my first like upfront photographed moments in Sierra Leone. And then, like, on the streets, like, everywhere, they're selling everything. The joke Bob Pullman, who led our expedition, made is that there's no Walmart, there's no CVS, but that they bring it to you. And boy, do they. Wow, they bring it to you. And so everywhere we went, it was teeming with life. And so the next weather report, the next haiku is weather report. That's what we had going on there. It was hot and sweaty, and I'm not a gracious.
Did you use the balm?
I did use the balm, and I used more Gold Bond powder in 2 weeks than I have in a year or ever. And it just caked. It wasn't nice, you guys. It
Swampy.
But it was okay. I mean, I knew what I was getting into, right? So our first stop in Freetown was the United Methodist House. Is that called Methodist House, Bonnie? And they were having like a meeting / church service, and so we got to participate in this. But I took a picture of this sign because for those of you that aren't Methodists, most of you are not, United Methodist women, I call them the mafia because they get it done in this church, but I've learned it's not just this church, it's the world. That the women say, we're not going to have our conference in the 60s at your place because you won't welcome our black brothers and sisters to stay at your hotel. And they say, gosh, we're not sure about this sexuality thing.
That was in the 40s.
In the 40s. Okay, so Bonnie can keep me honest because she's one of that's mafia over there. You see, they got their own table. You need like a candle and a wine bottle over there. Deb and Bonnie. Violin. But they are often cutting edge and aggressive with our church, and you think that the church is led by the man, but if you've seen a Greek wedding, you know, like the man is the head of the church, but the woman is the neck, and the neck turns the head. And so I've been really impressed with Methodist women in general, and I love seeing the sign. What was sad about it is that they're advocating for violence-free elections. I didn't know that that was still a concern in the world, and apparently it is. So this is a picture of the meeting and different people that were there, and then our sweaty team. So the guy in the front here is Monty Barker. He is from Indy, and so is Greta. And then Bob Pullman is kind of in charge of us and our trip, and then Pastor Kevin's our pastor. And so we just participated in the meeting and sang some hymns, and it was nice to be there. So the experience I kept having everywhere is everyone is smiling, that they are happy, that they are happier with nothing than most of us are with literally everything. That even in America, our poorest poor are way ahead of the folks in a third world country, pretty much anywhere in the world. And it was really amazing to me, the dichotomy of how we live and what we've learned since the Little House on the Prairie days, and then how across the country and around the world, they're still there. They're going to the bathroom in a hole in the ground. They don't have running water. They don't have electricity, or if they do, it's generators. And I couldn't understand that. I couldn't. And as an American, I'm like, let's go, let's catch up, let's use what's available. But it's not the same. Everywhere is different, and culturally, what they think is important is maybe different than what we think is important. And they might know better than we do in some ways. So this was really hard for me. Poverty to joy, to live simply with your love, dirt notwithstanding. That was a constant thought. So there's these kids. This is the entrance to the Tayama Enterprise Academy, and these little kids were so cute. And I can have favorites. That's my favorite. That's my favorite. Right? There's a little zazz there. You can see that. This was just a great picture. This was the night we got there, and it was just really great to be able to see these kids. So then the room at the guest house, they took very good care of us, white Americans. We had really nice, like this is nicer than the hotel we stayed in Freetown. The tie-dye was cheerful and happy. The girlfriend I went with, I made a lot of fun with because she had like a bug tent. So like she had like a one-person tent. So she'd like zip herself in because she didn't want anything getting on her, which then freaked me out. And I had a mosquito net, and it's kind of like taking 6 trash bags and trying to get them on your body to sleep in, because like it's always everywhere and you're not sure what's happening, and there's a lot of pictures of that. I don't think I got malaria, I think I'm good, but it was an experience sleeping, so. But the guest house was really nice. They just, it's embarrassing how nicely they took care of us. Like, we had running water, we had electricity a lot of the time. We had fans when we had electricity, and we didn't have anything when we didn't. They had really nice bars on the back patio, so none of the little kids could get to us. I had lots of thoughts about that too. So we did the tour of the campus. The man in the middle is Joseph Formai, is that correct? Formai. And he was like our guy, he was our boss. And so he kind of took us all around. These are T students standing with him. And you guys remember we did the calculators and the backpacks? You can see the straps of their backpacks right there. They love those things. They use them for their cell phones and stuff. So this is the women in the T program. That's kind of like their study table. And behind them are these dorms. And so they have bunk beds with the same cool tie-dye that we had. And then the boys had the same thing. And we saw that too, but I just thought this was the picture that I wanted to use. The students were not high school age. So because of the attack is kind of a high school level, we thought they were high school age, but the students are in their 20s and 30s. And so that was really interesting. That was a big surprise when we went there. So I had favorites. Tiny Adama shimmies with her smile, and I laugh and dance too, so there's a picture of it.
Oh my goodness.
There's actually video, but I did not play that for you people. Isn't she cute? So lipstick, was a concern because red lips and everything. It lasted 3 days, and then I just gave up. So after that, it was just chapstick, and it was just sad. But, that's okay. I talk about vanity later here, too. So housekeeping in Africa is different. So this is laundry drying on the ground. As we drove through different areas, I would see laundry drying on dirt, and I kind of thought, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that the students are in uniforms, which is the British influence on the culture in Africa. And those uniforms, guys, are whiter than anything that ever comes out of my washer. I don't know how they do it. I literally have no idea. So the socks are white, the shirt's white. Like, presentation at school is very important. Again, I think we could learn from that. But household laundry, in general, was on the ground, hanging on part of the house or a fence or on dirt, and that was amazing. And then, like, this is, I think, clean dishes, and like earlier I couldn't get it in the shop, there was a chicken up there, and so, and then this is a catfish. That's really pretty, right? So she was preparing that for a meal, not for us. So they know that we are delicate, weak people with silly stomachs, and they took really good care of our food. We had chicken almost every single day, and a lot of it, again, lots of character building to be grateful. We probably have more food each day than most people have in a week. But that catfish is not going in our mouths, and I'm not sad to say that. So there's some other things about Africa that I thought was really interesting. So this is from our hotel we stayed at the beginning and the end. I don't think that was used, but it was like a toothbrush, toothpaste, shower cap, like a hotel thing. And it was like yellowed and beat up, and I thought, really? But it was probably the best thing they had. It probably was a huge gift to have that in the room. And I'm like, come on now, Super 8's got nicer toiletries. What are you doing, Africa? But they had that at the beginning. They had another one in the end in a different room we were in. And every time I saw it, I thought about things a lot. I thought about what that said about them, and how my reaction, what it says about me. And then, unlike America, where you can get credit for anything, even if you don't really have money or can't afford it, which is, again, something we could learn from Africa, they only work with what they've got. So this is the hotel, and they rehabbed to the second floor, and they did not rehab the third floor. I don't know if people were staying on the third floor. We were on the first floor where we knew what was happening. But I don't know if they're here. No, they'll come later. There's other pictures of like structure that were just like my American sensibility or snobbishness. really notice these little things and how I take them for granted here and how you can't take them for granted there. But I appreciated the fact that they worked within their means. I think that's wiser. So we had this huge convocation. We had this great, 300 people, great big tents that literally showed up overnight. I don't know when that happened. It's for the T because it's the first school like it in Sierra Leone. They had all kinds of pomp and circumstance and folks there. It was really cool. And one of the things that was really neat is this is the U.S. ambassador to Sierra Leone, Maria Brewer, and she is from Portage, and she graduated from Valparaiso University. Wow. So I just thought that was really great. It was really neat to meet her, and she had some personality, you know what I'm saying? We were standing up there in the heat for the pictures, and she was like, she was funny. So it was really great to know her. And honestly, I don't know the other people. That's Greta. Do you know any of the people in the picture?
I can't see that.
I should do a better job, but you guys aren't surprised, right?
I think you're doing great.
Thank you. So we walked through the village of Tayama, and this is the village market. The market was about as big as half the room right here, and people that had things to sell would bring it and sell. Some people would set it up really beautifully, and some people wouldn't. It was all open air, and what you can't appreciate here is the smell, because one of the things that they would do is catch fish and dry them, and catch blue crabs out of the river and dry them. And so those were available for sale like at every booth, so I didn't spend a lot of time in there because even though it was open air, it was not clean air. It was hard to be in there, but so beautiful. Look how, these peppers, and these are bags of palm oil, which is what they cook with, and onions and herbs and ground nuts, which we know as peanuts. I just thought that was so cool. And Tayama is a smaller village. I should know the head count, but I don't. And then the other village we also went to is Largo, and it was a lot larger. And they were close. They were like a half-hour ride away, but it was like 5 minutes on a highway, and then like a muddy, wet dirt road to the other village. So it was really adventurous. So what we were going, our project, because when you go on a mission trip, there's a project, was to build a peace hut, which is where in a village, people have a peace hut where they can take their disagreements. And so they meet in the peace hut and they hash it out. It was also explained in Largo that was for married couples, so the peace hut was for married couples to go hash it out. I don't know if I want to hash out in public. I don't know. Maybe not. So our job for the Enterprise Academy was to help build a peace hut. Then because the school is for home builders, engineers, agriculture, they were going to help build it. So the first day we were kind of clearing ground. So this is Warren, who's like 84 with like a pickaxe. I don't know if you can see, like it's really rough, like there's a stick in there to make it stay, and this is like just a tree branch. And then there's me with a pickaxe, and that's about all the work I did. Because I'm lazy and I'm overweight and hot and sweaty, and the students really wanted to do it, right? So we scraped the ground and cleared the ground in this great big circle. And this is Petty Petty. He's hilarious. Very, very. And so that was us working. And while we were working with the students, this very pregnant woman comes up, and they carry everything on their heads. And so she's got all this stuff. And like we have these workers, and we have like these leons. So the money in Sierra Leone comes in a $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, or $10,000 increment. That's it. And a $10,000 increment is like $1 or so US. So we had leons. We were ready to make it rain, because when you get $100 with leons, it's like a stack of money like we are never going to see over here. And so we had all this money in our purses, and we weren't exactly shopping at the market. And so this woman came along, and that got me going with another haiku. Pregnant girl selling, $1 feeds the workers, we buy everything. And so this woman who is selling bit by bit throughout the academy and the village, like we were able to buy out her whole tray. And so this is a picture of her, and then the workers, and it was like bananas and some kind of like weird things to dip it in, and like we did not eat it, but they went to town on it. It was just really cool. We appreciated her. And there is no Menards. So where do they get bricks to build something? They make the bricks to build something. So the bricks are made, or they're blocks. I've been corrected many times, still haven't learned it, blocks. So most of the buildings are made of block, and they're made with mixing cement and sand and water. And so this is Pastor Kevin. We all moved, I did move some wheelbarrows. of sand because the hut was supposed to be at one location and it actually was at another, and so the sand had been dumped by probably a truck, I guess, and like we had to move back and forth. So that they carried it in headpans and wheelbarrows, and it was really incredible. But then the students were mixing it, and I think everyone but me made a block. I think I was like fainting at the house or something when they were doing it. Unapologetically, you guys, gosh. So I want you guys to know, whatever church background or organizational background you have, that a meeting is a meeting is a meeting everywhere. That everywhere there will be people standing around like this, contemplating the work and not doing any of it. And so I love that these are our guys, right? We are helping. I was photographing, I was working. So then I had them turn around for an honest picture because, you know, if I'm gonna make fun of them, you gotta see who they are. And it's just, there were so many pictures like that, and I couldn't include them, but they're so funny to see us just, because, you know, you think you're there to teach something, you think you're there to help, and I've got a haiku for that. So here's the blocks, and they had to dry overnight. This is, now I can't remember what it's called, some kind of pole. Do you remember what it's called? Like, they cut down these little trees everywhere, and like that's how they make scaffolding to go up a building, or to hold this rebar still. And then they put like rocks around the rebar, and they're pouring cement. I mean, do you see the way they're dressed and the footwear? And they're working so hard and so well. And I couldn't tell them how to do any of that. I don't know how to, you know, I don't change a light bulb. So then later they got coveralls and hard hats, and they were so proud. I have so many pictures of them, like really proud. This was before they started posing for me. So like I don't know how they have clothes on under those, because I would just. But I guess you do acclimate. So the haiku is, "This is Africa," which I took from Amy. Thank you. I used that a lot during my trip from your book. We aren't teaching. Culture clash on achievement. We are just learning. Because you go over there the American way, like we got a thing in my house that I can tell to turn the TV on and play a fireplace for my home while I sit on my butt in a recliner so I can put my feet up without moving anything. Like, so I need to teach you guys how to do things. This is how you should live. But in fact, it isn't really how we should live, is it? Because in Africa, the social connections, the familial connections are so tight, and that they do enough work to sustain them for the day, and then they spend time together. Whereas we're working 2-income families so that we can have 2 cars and have a bigger house that's big enough we can't hear our kids and know what they're doing in other parts of the house. And so, I mean, it reminds me over and over and over again that less is more, that less is more, that less is more, and that the great American way might not be so great. Our classrooms suck too. This is an African classroom. Isn't that awesome? There are actually buildings and desks, and you'll see some of those. But for the Teama Enterprise Academy, most of their learning will come in the form of practicals. And so this is the home building students, of which I think, no, in the engineering there's one woman, but there's 15 of the 60 are women, which I was really stoked about. So they're working on this table, and they're planning. This is the teacher, Muhammad, planning how to do this polymer hut and how to make it really cool. So then the other folks, the engineer groups, were working on this motor. This is a generator. They don't have power, they don't have water, so they have generators, and this had broken. And a lot of times, because if they get something they don't know how to handle and it doesn't work, they just put it to the side and go back to what works for them. I saw many a toilet with no seat, but the toilet was still there. They didn't have a place to go get a toilet seat. And so this generator that wasn't working would normally just get cast aside, but because of what they're trying to do in Sierra Leone with the Enterprise Academy, they are learning how to rebuild it. And they did. This class did it in 2 days. Like, they fixed it. So that was really exciting. And I thought that's not the best of my pictures, but we don't have all day, right? So I'm a woman of a certain age, decent looking, somewhat overweight, but still kind of can pull it together, right? You know, scarf, turtlenecks. But I'm vain. And that was literally my first concern going over here as a reluctant missionary was, but my red lipstick? Like, what about what? And I learned a lot of things about myself. And that I could live going a week and a half without it. I'm still alive, still kind of wear it, but still. And this haiku is one of my hardest. It's vanity. Every bathroom here is stripped down. Never a mirror. No one wants to see. I saw a lot of bathrooms, women of a certain age again. I saw a lot of not bathrooms and used those also. I'm not very strong, and so like a lot of the toilets are actually crouch on the ground toilets. And I was pretty confident that if I had to use one, I would never actually get back up again. Boot camp is working! Plus, you don't want to go down all the way, so you will get back up. It worked. But this was different for me to think about, our bathrooms, my 2 bathrooms. And this picture in one of the hospitals was so poignant to me because the light shining in, kind of like the Holy Spirit of God saying, girl, get your vanity aligned. Remember that it's not about your appearance or how you look. Remember that what's important has nothing to do with what would be in a mirror if a mirror was here. So we're not the only moms. We have moms in Africa, and we got to go to the clinic in Teama, and there were 2 women who had had babies. So this is the woman who had this baby, and then her mother. And I don't know if you see, in 80-degree humidity, we're really glad that baby's bundled.
Yeah.
The clinic is free to the villagers. They have mosquito net that comes out of the bed. I don't know if you can see the bed's kind of an iron railing. Everything was from the 1940s. Even in the hospital in Freetown, it was 1940s hospital. And I was just, again, my American sensibility. I don't know, I gotta find a better word, because it's not necessarily sensible, but it was definitely different. As Pastor Kevin says, it was culturally enlightening. So I want to know if anyone can read that to me and tell me what it says.
Throw away.
Don't throw away something. Your dirty box.
You guys are smarter than I thought. I
Don't
thought
throw
it
away
was
your
so
dirty
good.
diapers.
Yeah.
It's don't throw your dirty needles away. Don't throw them on the ground. Throw them in the dirty needle box. Nor throw away dirty na ground. Don't throw away dirty on the ground. Well body, health, on something. Oh, probably we're trying to be healthy here. Throw away your dirty in the dirty box, the needle box. I thought that was so interesting. That's the language, and that's what it looks like typed. And I just had to have that in an image I could remember. So remember how I said make me care about it? So I remember about 4 years ago making an announcement from the pulpit, and I like to share information with everybody that's anywhere near me. And so when I went to a missions meeting, they're like, oh, we're doing this thing. I'm like, well, you got to tell people. And they're like, oh, we're doing it for the Lord. We don't want to brag about it. I go, no, we got to brag. Because if you don't share that you're doing it, no one else will be interested in getting involved in it. If you don't make me care about it by telling me you're doing it, I won't be interested in donating towards it. So I remember smart Alec, not caring about Africa, Heather, reading an announcement from the pulpit in church about how the International Missions was sending a treadmill to the hospital in Kissy. That treadmill.
No way.
Oh, isn't God hilarious? Hilarious. So this is the nicest, what's it called when you're, rehab.
Yeah.
The nicest rehab therapies in Sierra Leone, they said. And this is in the Kissy Hospital. And then this is a picture of one of the wards in the Kissy Hospital. And again, 1940s, you guys. I mean, think about our experiences of hospitals here. You could lick the floor, maybe you wouldn't know.
No.
You could? I don't know. The smell of bleach pervades.
If you want to go down
I can't
a
hear
to
that,
live
but
in
I'm
the
curious.
hospital.
It was just really, I just kind of walked around wow, okay. So right there by the Kissy Hospital and the Eye Hospital was Brown Memorial United Methodist Church. So I took a couple of pictures because I thought that was fun. And because my job here at the church is connections, I'm really interested in crowdsourcing ideas, and I love this suggestion box. And I just thought that was kind of interesting. So there's that. Okay, so I talked about the infrastructure is a little unique there, right? So it's kind of hard to see. I should have edited these. So this is a restaurant that we went to, and this is the hall. The kitchen is here. The food was good, but can you see my foot is on a board and there's a hole under it?
No.
And so then you kind of climb over that, and to the right is a porta potty, which I mean has a seat. For the record, I didn't use it. I made do without it. And that's the ocean, and then the beach. But what you can't see is there's a drop off here, right where that brick is, and it's trash. Like I think the restaurant throws the trash down, and like if it weren't for the rainy season, like when it all gets washed into the bay and then the Atlantic Ocean, it would just sit there. It's like, it's really incredible. Like, so I'm a mom and I'm anti-littering, right? So one of the things we brought, as you guys know, because you bought it, is gum. And so I had pictures of gum wrappers, not thrown on the ground outside, just on the ground outside, but in the classroom on the floor. And I was like, ah! And like I started saying like, hey, don't throw that on the ground. Don't, you put it in your pocket. And like there's some like kids and they're like, they drop, and I go, hey, 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 hey. Because I'm a mom, I've got the hey, hey, hey down. And they came and they picked it up. And like Pastor Kevin and I would see all this trash on the ground. We'd pick it up. We found out later that only the people who are in trouble pick up trash. So they wondered what we did. But it was just kind of incredible. And so this is a wall around a household or a building, and there's shards of glass and barbed wire. That was really common in Freetown to kind of keep people out. When there's so much need and so much desperation, like you have to take extra measures to guard what's yours if you have anything. This is the floor in the bathroom. I might have been sitting on the toilet when I took this picture. Y'all aren't surprised. So this is going into our room, and you just like this. This isn't done. It's not finished, and that's just the way it is. And there's like locks in our doors. We're kind of. It's just really interesting to see. And this was the best. This was the best. And it was really hard because I knew just being there in my white American snobbery that there is no way I could do enough. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And everywhere we went, there were people, which is another haiku. Hands out. If I give to them, they will drown me in their need. How much is enough? How much can I give and have it be enough? And we brought all this gum. My cohort, Greta, brought 2 huge bags of suckers. And everyone that knew everything said, do not hand those out. What? They're suckers. And I learned, because I'm stupid, and I don't listen to directions because I'm a rebel. So we were handing things out. And I swear to you, I would like, there's 5 kids, I just talked to them, I go in the guest house, I grab 1 pack of gum, I go outside, I start to hand out, and there's 35 children standing there. I don't know where they came from, like, boom, and I don't have enough. And it was that way everywhere with everything. And I don't know what to do about it. So I went to church and pray about it. So this church is the church in Largo that we've been helping build financially. So this is scaffolding that they use to build a building. Oh my gosh, right? So this is Pastor Kevin and that's Bob. And so this is part of the inside of the church. It was kind of like a cross with a stage over here, this side, and this side. And it was awesome. I was warned about 4 to 6 hour church services. It was about 2.5 hours. And it didn't drag. I wasn't like, because I was like, what's going to happen next? You know? And Pastor Kevin was told by the other 2 pastors we were traveling with he needed a collar, like a pastor collar, and he'd never worn one outside of seminary, so he bought one, and they are not cheap, and so he's wearing it here. And they didn't wear one! They wore like African shirts, and he's like, what am I doing with this one? Because he's special, they had him sit up with the pastors. And because we're American, they had a translator preaching. And I don't know if the pastor's better or the translator, but the translator, he was getting it, he was here for it, it was awesome. And so when they give, they don't just like pass a plate or file up front, they dance. So you bring your tithe and you dance to show God how grateful you are that he has given things to you and you're blessing him back. Which was fun, except for my moves are limited. And I stand out a little bit in this crowd. And so I had to try to bring it, and I didn't. So these beautiful women are giving their tithes, and so they had a blue basket and a red basket. They pitted the women against the men.
Oh, that's so
So
funny.
put it in the baskets, and like if you love your wife, I'm sure you'll donate to the women's. And if you love your husband, you'll donate. It was really fun in the men one. And because you're moms, this next special picture is especially just for you. Kids in every language kick each other during church.
Yeah. Look at the mom bending over.
I just watched them kicking each other during the whole thing. But what they do over there, again, let's learn a lesson from Africa, please, is they had people who would take a stick and they'd go in that crowd and they'd wha-pow the back of that kid's head.
No!
I know!
Oh my
We kind of liked it. We're going to be implementing that into Sunday school here. And then this is the worship band. They had drums and we sang and it was cool. This is the hymnal.
Oh, looks like it's
But probably better loved than the 46,000 we have in our church, right? And so these kids from Aiken Elementary or primary school, they all had their outfits on and they sang, and it was just really sweet. So this is one you may have seen on Facebook. This is one of my favorites. Oh, did it go? Get out of there. Got something weird popping up. So this is me showing the kids in Largo, or having a guy show the kids in Largo because he was explaining it to them. Pictures of my kids. And I love a lot of what I see there. What was really funny, because I'm looking at them through my lens, right? But they're also looking at me through theirs. And so there's wild dogs that kind of are kicked around, but they hover, but they're not like pets. And there's one cat, and it was the saddest thing ever. And there's chickens and goats, and they're wandering literally everywhere, inside, outside, but they don't have them as pets. And so one of those pictures is my dog Cassie on my bed, and they're talking to him, and he's talking back, and he looks at me and goes, "Is your dog on your bed?" Yeah, we're weird like that, you know. And they were laughing. All the kids were like, so it's not just us looking at them; they're looking at us too. Yeah. So one of the things that's hard is knowing my life and knowing.
She did sound.
Is she doing sheep?
Yeah, she. Because you sounded like a sheep that needed that.
So one of the things we were told is that it helps them to think about the fact that when we look at this poverty, when we look at this village life, that this is just the way Jesus would have lived. And that maybe that's a way to look at it, a lens that would be less hard for us. And yet I'm going, oh my God, that's like 2,020 years ago. Catch up! It was just hard. And so it's Jesus lived like this. You tell us that to cope. You tell us to help us cope. Backwards time machine. It's still hard. And so this is the Peace Hut in Largo. That's what a finished Peace Hut looks like. This is a child doing dishes, just like my children do dishes, except for not a dishwasher, not running water, and not at a sink inside.
Yeah, she's smiling.
And she's smiling. Mm-hmm. And then this is Warren. Like if you had your hands down, little kids would grab your hands. And I was not, before this trip, a kid person, I didn't think. But I was a kid person on this trip, and I held a lot of hands. You know, there were some days when I couldn't. When I was so hot, and I was so full of myself, and tormented, and frustrated, and overwhelmed, that I held my phone and took pictures, and I held my water bottle in my other hand, so they couldn't touch me. And I know that says some things about me, too. But if you had your hand down, they're grabbing your hands. It was really sweet. And then there's, the basics of separating rice, which we do all the time, and grinding wheat, which we do all the time. And then this woman makes me wish I could paint. I also, kind of want to.
Yep.
Which they do sell in the village of Tayama because they offer them to us a lot. But this woman, if I could paint her, is just beautiful. And she's selling these peppers that she made. And then before we left Largo, these little kids did this dance. And it's kind of like it's a Simon Says sort of dance. And I took this picture because I thought they looked like trolls. And my daughter literally was naked. I don't know what's on their face, but the crowns are made out of palm fronds. And it was really fun. And then apparently we're supposed to throw money at their feet, which feels weird because they're kids. But the whole crowd would cheer when we threw money down, so we did that a lot. We went to the Aiken United Methodist Primary School for a program, and the kids did recitations of scripture and poetry. They did bottle races, which is what this picture is. The girls womped them, I think. And then I was hot and protected by a table, and so I sat there praying for an ice water somewhere, which wasn't going to come, just spoiler. And I looked down and I saw their feet. And when I posted this picture on Facebook, my husband said that John Green of Vlogbrothers had said something about if you look at a group of people and the shoes they're wearing, it tells you a lot about their privilege and their place in the world. And my dad chimed in on the Facebook post, most of these people are barefoot in these pictures you're showing. So this is Kissy Hospital again. So there's some Valparaiso First Hand Methodist names on here, which was really cool, like as contributors to the old building that was new then. This is just a hallway, and it's so dirty, and I didn't understand. And then this is a new building with newer beds that don't look like they're from the 1940s, and they're hoping to get it ready by the end of the year. And like just as a get it done person, like you started unwrapping the beds and then you stopped, and you were unwrapping the beds and you threw the trash on the ground. And I don't understand that. That was just interesting. And this is one of my favorite characters in Largo.
Oh, goodness.
Pajama top and shorts, sucking on a grapefruit. I liked him a lot. So there was fun. Pickup artist, little baby goat. I do not squeeze too hard, but unhappy mama. You the goaty goat! Oh. Like they were everywhere, you guys. Oh. And so we went to the university there, and we learned about their agriculture program. And they don't have bottled water; they have water bags, which is not probably any better. But they're reusing them for all these seedlings, which I thought was really cool. And this guy was telling us all about the ag program and what plant was what. And there was cocoa beans for chocolate, and there was coffee beans. So we got it covered. They're taking care of us, ladies. But my job was to create a connection for pen pals. And so that was my main focus, and I got to accomplish that. I was very relieved. I think that's going to go ahead now. Nope. So I did these pictures. So I got 50 of the 60 students. In this one, she's looking away. I have a straight on one. But I got their name. Some of them put their phone numbers, which I have to take off because we can't do that with, anyway. But this is Bessie. She's the only woman in the engineer program. And that was my small wish, is I could at least get pictures, because I couldn't do that anywhere else. And so I did get that. And then I have a video that I hope will play for you. Doesn't look like it's going to go. It's running, but you can't see it. It was a video of Joseph Pormai, or Duramani, who is in charge of the T, kind of talking about why you would want to support a student. Because what's going to be my next step is to pay it forward. The money, the $3,000 was spent for me to go on this trip, is to raise $3,000 for the T Academy, which would equate to almost 4 full-year work-study scholarships. So that's a $3,000 goal, and when I meet it, I will share in public with great detail my most embarrassing story of the trip. Whoa. And if you haven't heard it, y'all know it's good, because I'm not usually embarrassed. It is awful. But you gotta make me $3,000 for Operation Classroom before I'm gonna share it. So I'm gonna post things, and there'll be a way to give straight to them and track it. And then whoever gives the last amount, I'll take them to lunch, and maybe they'll hear it first, maybe not at lunch. So this is something that just stood. I've got 3 more slides. This was a ground. This is like a parking barricade, and then there's like a thing, and there's cobblestones, and there's this grass patch, but it's got rocks around it. Like, I don't know what was happening there. And I took the picture because it was visually interesting, and then I thought, this is Sierra Leone. This is Africa. It's a little pretty. It's a little confusing. It's maybe useful. It tells a story that I don't know the beginning of, and I just wanted to include it because I think it's okay to not be comfortable, to not be sure, to not understand, and to say that. I think that people try so hard to say, I've got it all together, and I'm a great missionary, I'm kind and generous. No, I went kicking and screaming, and I still don't know what to do with it all. And I was a jerk some of the time, and I wasn't I don't know. You guys, I think it's okay to be that. And the other thing is my American sensibility, right? Women sweep this way with like a, and I've seen like actual brooms. And so I asked our drivers who took care of us and did a lot of things with us, I said, what's going on? I've seen upright brooms. Why are people so using these things? And he kind of took some breaths and then he said, well, if you use the other broom, it doesn't look like you're working. And you also can't see what you're doing as well as when you stoop over and really look. And I think like that's us, like Americans, like we want to do less, we want it easier and easier and easier, but maybe we're not doing a good job. And then maybe it was a little bit harder. Maybe it was a little bit harder. And so we're leaving Freetown, we had some downtime, we played a lot of Uno, we took a sea coach to get off of the part we were on over to where the airport was. And then my last slide is this picture because, again, Sierra Leone, it's connected to the world by this ocean. It's rocky and maybe a little dangerous, but it's got that beauty, and you don't know the whole story. And you can't know the whole story unless you go there and experience it with your body. And I would challenge all of you, if you get an opportunity to go to a third world country, go reluctantly, go afraid, go uncomfortable, go white and privileged and unsure of who you are in the world, go. And that is what I have learned, and I hope that it is useful to you, and we'll shut this down, and if you guys have questions, we don't have time for it, we gotta get out of here. Thank you.